There's a feeling that shows up every year right before Thanksgiving and Black Friday, and it's way more familiar than people like to admit. It's that mix of being tired from the year, but also kind of excited because everything is on sale and everyone keeps talking about how this is the best time to buy things. You start thinking about how hard you worked, how stressful life can feel sometimes, and how maybe you deserve to treat yourself a little. Not in a crazy way, just enough to feel like all the effort actually meant something. You tell yourself it's only once a year and that it doesn't really matter in the long run. You think about the stuff you put off buying and the things you wanted but said no to all year. You start picturing how nice it would feel to finally just say yes. And honestly, it doesn't feel reckless at all. It feels reasonable. It feels earned, like you are finally giving yourself permission to enjoy something instead of always being the responsible one. So you start scrolling. You look at the deals, you see the big percentages and the bold letters and the countdown timers. You imagine the package showing up at your door and that little hit of excitement when you open it. You tell yourself you'll keep it under control. You'll just get a couple things. You're being smart because technically you're saving money. And for a while, it actually feels good. Then a few weeks pass, the excitement fades, the new stuff becomes normal, and one random morning in January, you check your bank account or your credit card and feel that weird, tight feeling in your chest. You're not in full panic, but you're definitely not relaxed either. You start wondering how the total got that high and how something that felt fine at the time now feels kind of heavy. And that's the part people don't really talk about. Black Friday doesn't usually feel dangerous in the moment, it feels deserved, and that's why it works so well. The whole thing feels logical. You worked hard this year, these deals won't last. You're better off buying now instead of later. You're not throwing money away, you're being efficient, you're taking advantage of an opportunity. Your brain comes up with 100 little reasons why this makes sense, and most of them sound pretty convincing. Your brain also loves the rush that comes with getting a good deal, that feeling of winning. Like you beat the system somehow, like you were smarter than everyone else who paid full price. And slowly, without really noticing, being careful starts to feel like you're missing out, and saying no starts to feel like you're being too strict on yourself. But here's the thing, most people never stop to think about. Black Friday isn't designed for you to win, it's designed for you to move, to click, to act fast, to feel pressure. The fake original prices, the huge discount numbers, the limited stock warnings, all of it is there to make you feel like waiting is the worst thing you could do. You're not being rewarded, you're being guided. There's a pretty clear pattern that happens every year. You feel stressed or tired. You see a deal, you feel excited, you buy something, you feel relief. Then later, you feel a little guilty. Then you push that feeling away and move on. And before you know it, the cycle repeats the next time something goes on sale or life feels overwhelming. Over time, your brain starts linking comfort with spending. It starts believing that buying things is the easiest way to feel better, even if that feeling doesn't last very long. And when that happens again and again every year, it slowly becomes part of how you handle stress, boredom, and emotional pressure. On top of that, there's the social pressure side. You see people posting their hauls online, you hear friends talking about the crazy deals they got, you start feeling like you're the only one not participating if you hold back. You don't want to seem cheap, you don't want to feel left out. So even if you weren't totally convinced before, you start leaning towards spending just to feel included. When spending feels like belonging, saying no stops feeling calm and starts feeling lonely. And that's a powerful push. The part that really hurts is what happens after. January rolls around and suddenly life feels tighter. Your savings haven't grown. Your bills feel heavier. An unexpected expense pops up, and instead of being an inconvenience, it feels like a crisis. You start telling yourself you'll fix it later, that next year will be different, that once things calm down, you'll finally get ahead. Not because you're bad with money, but because the whole system teaches you to deal with the emotion by spending instead of pausing. Here's where things shift though. The moment you actually notice this pattern, you start creating space, and that space matters. When you see what's happening instead of just reacting to how it feels, you get the power to choose differently. You're not irresponsible, you're not broken, you're just human and responding to the same psychological triggers everyone else is responding to. The difference is now you're paying attention. And paying attention changes everything. You start realizing you don't have to rush just because there's a timer on the screen. You don't have to buy something just because it's technically a good deal. You don't have to follow the crowd just because everyone else is excited. You can actually stop for a second and ask yourself if this thing really fits your life or if it just fits the moment. You begin to notice the difference between wanting something and wanting the feeling that buying it creates. And that awareness alone starts to soften the pull. It doesn't mean you never spend money again. It just means the decision becomes more intentional instead of automatic. Eventually, your idea of winning starts to change. It stops being about getting the biggest discount and starts being about feeling calm the next morning. It becomes about not cringing when you check your bank account. It becomes about knowing you made a choice you still feel okay about days later. That's a quieter kind of confidence, but it lasts way longer. You start to see that being strong with money doesn't look flashy. It doesn't come with applause. It just feels stable. It feels steady. It feels like you're not constantly fighting the current anymore. Imagine waking up in January and not feeling that familiar tension. Imagine opening your banking app and feeling mostly fine instead of stressed. Imagine knowing that you didn't trade your future comfort for a short moment of excitement. That kind of peace doesn't come from stuff. It comes from awareness and self control built over time. And the cool part is, it doesn't require perfection. You're still allowed to buy things, you're still allowed to enjoy life. The shift is just about being honest with yourself about why you're spending and whether it really lines up with what you want long term. You start noticing patterns in your behavior. Maybe you shop more when you're overwhelmed. Maybe you scroll deals when you're bored. Maybe you're more impulsive late at night. Instead of judging yourself for it, you just notice it. And that changes how you respond next time. You might even start asking simple questions like, will I care about this in a month? Or am I just excited right now? Or would I still want this if it wasn't on sale? Those questions don't kill joy. They just create clarity. Slowly, Black Friday starts to lose its grip. You can still see the deals, you can still feel the pull, but you're not controlled by it in the same way. You're aware of what's happening behind the scenes, and that makes it easier to step back instead of getting swept up. And that awareness spills into other parts of your life too. You start trusting your decisions more. You stop feeling as guilty when you say no. You feel more confident choosing what's right for you instead of what feels popular in the moment. That's what real control looks like. Not extreme restriction, not never buying anything, and just knowing why you're choosing what you choose. Black Friday stops feeling like this huge emotional event and starts feeling like just another day where you make decisions. And the best part is you get to decide how you behave instead of letting the system decide for you. You might still buy something here and there, and that's okay. The point isn't to avoid pleasure. The point is to make sure the pleasure you choose doesn't quietly create stress later on. Because the real win isn't the discounted price, it's the calm you feel afterward, the stability, the feeling that you didn't betray yourself for a quick rush. And when you start moving through the holidays with that mindset, you notice something else too. You enjoy the season more. You feel less pressure. You're more present. You care less about keeping up and more about just being where you are. That's where the real shift happens, not in the shopping cart, but in your head, not in how much you spend, but in how aware you are when you spend it. Black Friday doesn't actually control your life. The way you respond to it does. And when you choose to pause, to think, to notice instead of rush, you're not missing out. Well, you're creating space. You're protecting your future. You're building a version of yourself that feels steadier, calmer, and more in control. And honestly, that feels way better than any temporary deal ever could.